The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
In order to authenticate any document, you need to have the original.
No, wait just a second. They did release a birth certificate.
The original?
Even Donald Trump said to be satisfied with it.
But a copy of anything, you can't be satisfied. You have to actually examine the original. So in order for any document examiner, in a court of law or for George Washington, I always got a Abraham Lincoln autograph or whatnot. In order to have an expert authenticate it, you can't go by a copy. You have to actually examine the ink on the paper, as well as many other things.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the fact that Obama's Social Security number is from Connecticut and he's never been there?
3 minutes after the hour of 7:03, 630 KHOW, Denver's talk station. And good morning, everyone. We do it again. It's a Tuesday morning, June 5, 2012, KHOW Radio. Well, slight chance for storms, and 87 the high, 57 tonight. Wednesday, 86 will be the high. And tomorrow it's Hot Bike Nights at Thunderbird. One more time, every Wednesday night now, over on West 44th Avenue across the street from Gunsmoke. Well, on Sunday, the Denver Post, Curtis Hubbard, who won't return phone calls, Denver Post editorial page, wrote a piece entitled The Rebirth of Birthers. As you know, the Denver Post has been on a roll about trying to take people on, starting with the one on Friday, Why Pal Around with Trump, and then they just continued. So one of the things that Curtis, I won't return your phone calls, Hubbard, and then they do that all the time. That was not available for comment. I guess Curtis Hubbard was not available for comment. But he takes the top 5 birthers. And he makes me number 1, and I don't deserve number 1. Terry Lakin, Phil Wolf, Greg Hollister, and John Sampson all risked light years more than I did. I risked nothing. They risked everything. Without further ado, this man was number 5 on the list. He's been a great friend for us. He's been a friend, more than a friend, to Corey Voorhees through those fights. He's always stood with us. His name is John Sampson, and let me read what Kurt Hubbard wrote. Number 5, John Sampson. As blogger Jason Saltzman. First of all, John, did you get a big kick out of him using Jason Saltzman as the axe to swing at your tree?
Good morning, Peter. And yes, I did. Mr. Saltzman and I have spoken on a couple of occasions, and it is what it is. But, I got a kick out of it.
What I thought was interesting is Saltzman, although yesterday in a private conversation, Saltzman called, and I have, obviously spoken about the contest that had no winner, the one that he ran with Michael Huttner.
Right.
And so yesterday when he called me, he said he wouldn't answer any direct questions, but he did say to me that it was Huttner and Progress Now who ran that contest, not him. So he is not responsible for the contest without a winner, but it's Progress Now who has been out lampooning, all kinds of good conservative issues. Well, he said it was Progress Now, so I take him at his word that it was Michael in hiding Huttner and the hard-hitting bunch at the stalker girlfriends at Progress Now. So there we go. So I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
It's been interesting, I got to say that.
Yeah, so let me read it to you. John Sampson, as blogger Jason Saltzman recently wrote, Sampson is a retired immigration officer who claimed Obama's been using a Social Security number issued to a Connecticut resident in 1977. End of story. That's all he writes. All right. Who is the owner of SSN 0426844? Let me go back. First of all, give me a career overview so people know who you are.
Well, let's see. I retired from Immigration and Customs Enforcement in August of 2008 after 27-plus fun-filled years working in immigration enforcement. Before that, I was a police officer in New York. Like Colonel Lakin and Colonel Hollister, I am a veteran of the Armed Forces of the United States, having served in the First Gulf War in a Coast Guard port security unit. And currently, as you know, I'm a candidate for the Colorado State Senate in Adams County.
When we went into the Voorhees fight, and
yes.
and you never missed a day in court, we sat together.
Well, actually, yeah, I was in court every day, but unfortunately, myself and another ICE agent were sequestered in what I euphemistically refer to as the green room.
Yeah, the bullpen. Yeah,
because we were potential witnesses, and when the first witness that the defense called, Gray Buckley, who's retired from deputy director of the Colorado Bureau of Investigators, did his outstanding job on the witness stand. We were told our presence wasn't needed on the witness stand, so they brought us back in. But yeah, I was with you that day when the jury came in.
Having said that, what would you like to say about that story about Voorhees and the?
There is a. It was a very unfortunate situation. Corey did the right thing in that he, like myself, took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And last night I was at the Lincoln Day dinner where Colonel West, or Congressman West, was the keynote speaker. And Congressman West, when he was stumping in Florida, had made a comment that we all took an oath, and that oath didn't come with the statute of limitations. And I know for a fact that Corey and Mike Rebow and myself took that oath and take that oath very seriously. And just because we don't wear the suit anymore doesn't necessarily mean that we don't serve any longer. Corey, fortunately, has landed on his feet.
Yes, he
is I believe he is the director of loss prevention for one of the supermarket chains here in Colorado.
Yes, he is.
It's a little scary what the government can do to you.
But when we were discussing the Voorhees case the other morning, and I've discussed it with so many people privately, you think about it, the principles. Ritter is in shame and tapped out. Stephanie Villaforte, hairdryer, blow dryer, has gone on to be a flack master for Michael Hancock and spin those lies like he spun them for Ritter. Lepley resigned. Morrissey, I hope to God, runs for re-election. I hope to God he runs for re-election. Kimbrough, we make an award up for Kimbrough. Trey Rogers, all these guys, what happened to them? They're in the weeds. Who stands tall? Voorhees does. Now, did he lose his career? John,
absolutely.
You're absolutely right. But you know what? Look at the rest of them. Look at the people who were surrounding and attacking Voorhees. Look where they are. And then look at Voorhees. I'd rather be Voorhees.
That's correct. He paid a heavy price.
Yes, he did.
But he can look himself in the eye when he looks at himself in the mirror.
And I know Bill Ritter can't. I wonder if Lepley probably can. Cantwell, who knows about what the CBI people did, but Cantwell was there at the time. And, in my mind, they live in disgrace.
I agree with you.
Having said that.
Yes.
Where did you get on to this 042-68-4425 SSN?
Oddly enough, Corey and I had gone to Illinois back in November of 2009 for a convention, if you would. And at that convention, I had the opportunity to meet Orly Tates, who has been derisively referred to as the Queen of Birthers. And she asked me, once she heard what my credentials were, if I would be willing to work for her and run down a particular Social Security number, which turned out to be 042684425. And I agreed to do so, and all I did was run it through the databases that I would use for my consulting firm, and came up with all the information that that number related to or was being used by Mr. Obama, and that the number had been issued sometime between the period of 1976 and 1977 to somebody who was residing at that time in the state of Connecticut. Further research indicated we narrowed it down because I ran the number immediately preceding the one Mr. Obama was using and the one that was immediately following the one that Mr. Obama was using. And one of the two turned out to be an individual by the name of Thomas Wood, who was deceased. And we were able to get the SS5, which is the Social Security application for the number. That number was issued in Connecticut, or to Mr. Wood living in Connecticut, and it was issued in March of 1977. So we had a starting point where we could narrow it down in time as to when that number was issued. As far as my knowledge is concerned, Peter, I don't know who is the rightful owner of 042684425, because the Social Security Administration is refusing to release that information.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sum and substance of how I came to be involved in this situation. Since then, I was called to testify in Georgia, in Fulton County, in front of Judge Malihi back in January of this year. And we all know how that wound up.
And that was the bizarre one. That's when the president and his attorneys, they ignored any and all subpoenas.
Correct.
And
that's when the Secretary of State issued his infamous letter that if you fail to participate, you do so at your own peril.
But then they spend a long weekend, and almost like the Pat Sullivan sentencing, everybody comes out with a smile on their face, and it all ends.
That's correct.
Crazy.
Judge Malihi was, in fact, just before the hearing started, they had an in-chamber session.
Yeah, I know.
And from what I had been told, the judge was indicating clearly, unequivocally, that he was going to issue a default judgment.
Yes, against
Mr. Obama.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way.
And no one knew why.
No, everybody can guess, but
sure.
Or draw their own conclusions. But nobody knows for certain why that happened. I mean, I've read the decision, and had Mr. Obama shown up, that would have been a decision that could have possibly been argued either direction. But the fact of the matter is, he failed to appear, and
yes, and he ignored the subpoena.
Yes, it's been an interesting ride, to say the least.
Let me take a break and come back. Now, when there's not answers to questions, it always begs some sort of an answer. And
that's correct.
And so, if we talk about Mr. Ludwig and where he died, it may begin to explain this. But for the people that say that this was just a mistake by one number or two numbers, that Barack Obama using a Connecticut SSN was simply a mistake by the Social Security offices in Hawaii, how do you respond to that, John?
That's, we've torn it apart and looked at it, and I would say that the odds of that being a mistake are about on par with me winning the lotto.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's the best way I can describe that.
Hang on, we'll come back. John
right.
Sampson's here, number 5 on the list, 15 after 7, 7:50. It's 20 minutes after 7, 7:20. Good morning, everyone. The Big Five birthers, with exception of one, on the radio show this morning. 6:30 KHW Tuesday, website khw.com. What do you do when the Secret Service knocks on your door? These people have a home video. You can see that. Chance for T-storms in 87 degrees. Blinds.com. Warm weather means opening your windows for ventilation. Last thing you need to do is hassle with broken blinds or shabby drapes, shabby shades. Replace them with designer blind shades, shutters, and drapes from Blinds.com. This one works. They're terrific. That's what we did. It's the fastest, easiest, most cost-efficient way I know to transform any room for prices lower than Lowe's and Home Depot. It's the email I want to share that backs us up. And we got this from people. They said, look, they were skeptical of doing this. Blinds online, having them fit when they arrive. But it all came together. They're perfect. The website's great. Videos are helpful. It really is there now. You can transform any room in about 20 minutes by yourself. Even measuring is totally risk-free. If you happen to mismeasure, which they make virtually impossible, but it's possible, they remake it for free. Expert design advice without a hassle. You call the free face-to-face design consultation with Blinds.com. This thing works. Blinds.com, B-L-I-N-D-S, Blinds.com, Blinds.com. Chance to win $5,000 right now in a cash giveaway. Get free color samples and free shipping, no sales tax in most states. Expert installers, Blinds.com, B-L-I-N-D-S.com. Our guest is John Sampson, number 5 on the list, doled out by the Denver Post of the I guess the worst of the worst, the birthers. So we are talking that the President of the United States has an 042684425 SSN. And you say that there's no way it could have been issued by the state of Hawaii. Or?
Well, what I'm saying is that the records indicate that the number was issued in March of 1977 to someone who applied for that number while residing in the state of Connecticut. And it wasn't the clerical error, it wasn't the transpositional error, that it magically found its way to Hawaii by accident.
Madeline Payne Dunham, known as Toot.
Yes.
Barack Obama's grandma, who raised him.
Correct.
Now, she worked part-time in a probate office in the Honolulu, Hawaii courthouse. And
Correct.
according to some investigators, and that therefore had access to the SSNs of deceased individuals. Is that possible to do? And when you file taxes, John, what happens?
I'm not sure I'm understanding. When you file taxes, your Social Security number is sitting on the top of the tax return. I mean, if that's where you're going.
Yeah, how long has the president had the 042?
How long has he had it?
Yes.
I don't know. I would say that the number was issued, as I said, in March of 1977.
We're led to believe he's working in an ice cream shop then, right?
Well, he's working in an ice cream shop, but that was prior to the number being issued. So the question is, what number did he use when he was working in the ice cream shop, assuming he used one to begin with? Mr. Ludwig died in June of 1981, according to what I'm looking at right now, at the ripe age of 91 years and 3 months. He was born in February of 1890. I have not seen, Peter, any direct indication as to what number Mr. Ludwig actually had. I do know that it begins with 042, but I don't know myself whether or not that's the number in question. The other thing is what you mentioned earlier was the selective service record, which is also extremely problematic. In March of this year, I had the opportunity to be flown down to Phoenix, Arizona for a day-long meeting with a group of individuals to include Joe Arpaio, Mike Zullo, who is the lead investigator for the cold case posse that's looking into this matter through the auspices of Sheriff Arpaio's office. Dr. Corsi was there, and some other individuals were there as well. And then, as a result of that meeting, the Sheriff's Department had a meeting with the Surprise Arizona Tea Party on March 31st. And Mike Zullo very graphically showed how he recreated the postal cancellation stamp that appears on Mr. Obama's selective service record. And he said what he wound up doing was recreating the stamp in his living room. And what the significance of that is, as Mr. Zullo put out, is that although the birth certificate is a total manufactured document, layer upon layer, the selective service record is more problematic because the law states unequivocally that if you do not register for the selective service, you're ineligible to hold public office. And that came as a rather quiet moment, I would imagine, at the Surprise Arizona Tea Party meeting on the 31st of March.
So, Barack Obama never lived and never worked in Connecticut.
Nobody can find any connection to Connecticut whatsoever.
Is there any reason on earth that you understand in all the years that you worked in that business for his SSN to start with the digits 042?
042 is... This is another anomaly that just has recently occurred. Prior to June of 2011, the Social Security Administration would issue Social Security numbers from their headquarters in Baltimore. But the first three digits of the number is what's called an area number. And that number was uniquely identified to and tied to the zip code from where the individual was applying for the number. It's not an indication of where they were born. It's not an indication of where they permanently reside. It's merely where they apply for the number from.
Sure, you could be born in Western Pennsylvania, but apply in Detroit,
and you have Czechoslovakia and come to the United States as an immigrant and apply for a number out of Connecticut, and you would have an 042 number.
Exactly.
Okay.
We've been over this so many times on the air. So in 1977, according to his timeline, his official biography, he is slinging ice cream at a Baskin Robbins. When Mr. O'Reilly, used to be Mr. Riley, said, his father got it because he was at Harvard. Well, first of all, his father was
in Massachusetts.
And that's number one. But number two, his father was back in Africa.
Well, this is true also.
He left. In 1977, he had returned to Kenya. So, long story short, neither one of those are possible scenarios.
Correct.
Is the one possible that Madeline Payne Dunham, picked it up somehow?
Either her or parties unknown. There's been some rampant speculation that Bill Ayers and his wife, given their prior affiliation with the Weather Underground, knew very well how to obtain counterfeit or false documents.
Is there any way that anyone could ever see the Baskin Robbins records to see if that number was when he was slinging ice cream?
Well, back in 1977, we didn't have Form I-9, which is employment eligibility. So, that didn't come into play until 1986.
Where's the first? What if you could see his Occidental College entrances?
That would be good.
And then I thought about this last night. If you could, then you could see whether 042 shows up at Occidental or Columbia or wherever.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Ludwig dies in 1981.
Right. He dies in Hawaii.
Right. And I am not in any way, shape, form, or manner saying that the number that Ludwig has is the same number. Okay. However, the Selective Service record that also has that Social Security number, 042684425, was purportedly filed by Mr. Obama in 1980. But then again, Zulo has very convincingly shown me and has shown a bunch of people, either in presentations or behind closed doors, how he recreated that postal cancellation stamp. And there are problems with it. But, we don't know. We simply don't know. And that's where it's a little problematic. At some point, hopefully, the truth is going to come out, and we'll see what happens.
Well, so congratulations on being number 5. You certainly deserve more than that.
Well, I'll leave you to be number 1.
Terry, every one of you guys, I tried to make this point. Sampson, Hollister, Wolf, Doc Lakin, all you guys risk a hell of a lot more than I ever did. I just should get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and do a radio show. But Terry lost everything. Phil Wolf took an enormous amount of heat. Hollister took huge heat. You've taken heat. And, and you guys, set aside.
Well, we swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution, Peter, and that's, that's where my core value is. And
long story short, I'm, like I said, as Sheik was saying, we're number 1. But truly, I looking at you 4 guys, I don't even belong on the list. But
well, you've been carrying the water also. I mean, you've been persistent, covering this issue where angels fear to tread.
It's fools rush in.
Fools rush in.
Fools rush in.
But, the old Shakespearean proverb from the other side, getting back to this article, the quote that they've got in here as it relates to me is factually correct.
Absolutely.
And no one's disputing that.
No one's disputing anything.
You're shooting the messenger because you don't like the message.
Well,
it's the old Shakespearean adage. Thinks the lady does protest too much.
Well, that's the game that the Post has been playing with these series of editorials. Why pal around with Trump? And, of course, they even lie about or they call it a promotional item. It was not. It was a pamphlet. And then that was the thing Obama's literary agent, she said, never mind, a woman who worked on the agency at the time has admitted making the error. And that's the end of the story. No, the woman said, I didn't fact check. The question is to the Denver Post, to Mr. Hubbard, who gave her the facts? Everybody else gave him the facts. Barack Obama. That's where the facts came from. Do you really think that this woman sitting by herself in a cubicle in New York started making up countries and job titles? Of course not.
No.
Of course not. All right, sir. You are the man.
We missed you at the Mile High Hurley event.
Well, no, I saw your car.
Oh, you were there. All right.
Of course I was there. I saw your car, and then all of a sudden that sky turned dark black, and I was with the guy who said, "Hey, Pete, that looks like hail."
Okay.
And
all right.
hailstorms and motorcycles. I was walking around looking for you. I saw everybody else, and I saw your car, and that's a cool car, by the way. And I was looking everywhere for you, and then that big storm and the wind rolled in, and I mean, I got home and was like and then a rainstorm hit. Like I said,
well, my wife had to come in from Strasbourg to help me pack everything up. The owner and the general manager, Eric.
Eric's great. Oh my God,
he is. He's a great guy.
Good guy.
He was nice enough. They were nice enough to invite me to come on in, and I got to meet about 1,500 people.
You're the man.
That dealership is smack in the middle of my district, so it worked out well.
We'll push it later in the week. Thanks, sir.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.